Tomorrow is the start of the NFL's free agent frenzy. Actually, it could be today, depending on when you're watching this video, as I'm dropping it late. The legal tampering period begins Monday at noon Eastern, 11 Central Time. Teams can announce terms of deals starting tomorrow, but nothing goes official until the new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. If last year is any indication, the media doesn't have a clue what Ryan Poles is going to do. But with still over $50 million in cap space, even after signing safety Kevin Byard, and rumors of Justin Fields trades flying around, I wanted to preview this year's free agent class. I'm going to go over each position of need. On offense, I will address receiver, center, guard, tight end, and running back. Regardless of how you feel at quarterback and offensive tackle, this year's free agent class doesn't really fit the Bears at either of those positions. Let's get right into it. First off, I have to talk about the center class. The Bears just traded for Ryan Bates, and Brad Biggs and others believe he will be our starting center this year. I definitely think that could be an option, but I believe that Ryan Poles is not done addressing the center position yet. He will either draft or sign another center. My number one ranked free agent center would be Lloyd Cushenberry. Connor Williams would have been my number one, but his torn ACL complicates matters. I have 5 centers that I think would be immediate upgrades and could come in and start day one. Lloyd Cushenberry, Tyler Biadasz from the Cowboys, Connor Williams, Mitch Morse, who was just cut by the Buffalo Bills, and then Evan Brown, who was with the Seahawks last year. I think all 5 of those guys could come in and start for us, but I'm really high on the centers in this year's draft. There's 3 or 4 guys that would look really good in Bears uniforms long term. And the next position I want to talk about is running back, the position that I'm normally not in favor of spending big money on. But the landscape is just so different this year. Nobody wants to pay running backs anymore, and you have all pros and Pro Bowlers littering this year's free agent class. And then I want to add another point. If we are taking Caleb Williams number 1 overall, I think we need to sign a big-time running back. Think about that. We have so much cap space, and Ryan Poles has done such a great job already. If we're going to reset the quarterback contract too, we can more than afford to pay a running back for 3 or 4 years, especially this year when the value should be even better than ever at running back. My favorite guy would be Josh Jacobs. I think he would completely upgrade our running game. He's only 25 years old and is one of the best running backs in football. But Saquon Barkley is the best player available. He just has a ton of injury concerns, but either one would be a massive upgrade to our offense. Other guys like Tony Pollard, J.K. Dobbins, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, and even Devin Singletary. This year's running back class is stacked. There's even guys like A.J. Dillon and Deontay Foreman and more. I think Ryan Poles could definitely make a move at running back. It wouldn't surprise me if he signed a big-name guy. But entering the offseason, I had wide receiver as our number 1 need. We simply need to add talent opposite of DJ Moore. This year's receiver class in free agency is just not very good, but the NFL draft happens to be loaded. There were supposed to be 3 big-time names that all stayed where they were at. T. Higgins and Michael Pittman got franchise tagged, and Mike Evans signed a long-term deal in Tampa. So now the top guy is Calvin Ridley, who's a really good player, but he missed a year due to suspension, and he's now 29 years old. I think he's going to get overpaid. To me, the number 2 guy and probably the only big-time free agent wideout I would be interested in is Gabe Davis, who's just 25 years old. He has a ton of untapped potential, but he's also a bigger-bodied guy with some deep speed. He's an intriguing player for sure. It really just comes down to how much he gets. Marquise Hollywood Brown is one of the fastest deep threats in the NFL. At 27 years old, he's struggled with injuries and consistency, but he's a legit deep threat who will probably be overpaid. I'd probably prefer a bargain guy like Curtis Samuel or Tyler Boyd who can play in the slot. Curtis Samuel is probably the receiver that makes the most sense for the Bears. Ryan Poles is not going to break the bank, and Curtis Samuel's still in his prime at 28 years old. He's also good friends with DJ Moore and could be a nice addition to this receiver room. Tyler Boyd wouldn't be a bad sleeper option either. He's a 29-year-old proven slot receiver who still has something left in the tank, a perfect buy low candidate. Other guys to just throw out there are KJ Osborne and Kendrick Bourne. They fit the mold of the receiver I would be looking for if he goes that route in free agency. I do not see Darnell Mooney coming back. After hearing he turned down a 3-year, $30 million deal last year, I see Mooney finding a new home very soon. And then at tight end, there's just a ton of names that could be brought in, starting with Noah Fant, Gerald Everett, Jonnu Smith, Will Disley, Colby Parkinson, Irv Smith Jr., Adam Troutman, Mercedes Lewis, Austin Hooper, Logan Thomas, CJ Uzama, Robert Tonyan, Bryson Hopkins, and Blake Bell. The tight end class is pretty deep at free agency, and it's a nice draft class as well. I think Ryan Poles needs to bring in some backup tight ends, but not overspend at the position. I do really like Noah Fant, but it's possible he gets offered a starting job somewhere, and I'd rather see Ryan Poles make a value addition at tight end. Moving on to the defense, edge rusher is a position that I think needs to be addressed this offseason, but they're known to get overpaid in free agency. So finding a value at this position can be difficult. Danielle Hunter should get a contract close to what Montez Sweat got, and I just don't see Ryan Poles giving that to a guy who's going to be 30 years old next year. I see a lot of people in the Chicago media saying Danielle Hunter is likely to be a Bear, but I think there are 3 younger pass rushers who have a ton of upside that Poles could show some interest in. Those guys are Jonathan Greenard, Bryce Huff, and Chase Young. Greenard is 27 years old. He just had his career year with the Texans, and he's a guy who fits in very well. Same with Bryce Huff. He's not a full-time starter, but he had 10 sacks as a situational pass rusher. He's only 26 years old, and as long as he doesn't get super overpaid, I'd love to see him in a Bears uniform. But then let's talk about Chase Young for a minute. He's a former teammate of Justin Fields and Montez Sweat. He's just 25 years old, but most teams will be wary to give him a long-term deal, in my opinion. He's struggled with consistency, and he's had some plays where he lacked effort with the 49ers. On top of that, he is coming off an ACL injury just 2 years ago. When on his game, though, Chase Young has the potential to be one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I would love if we could somehow talk him into signing a 1-year, prove-it type deal to reunite him with Montez Sweat on our defensive line. Chase Young is a guy that I would love to have in Chicago, but I definitely don't want to overpay him or sign him to a big long-term deal. A couple other intriguing names, Josh Uche, a guy who went to Michigan. He played with the Patriots. He has 19 career sacks, but he was mostly a reserve player for Bill Belichick. I would not want to pay him starter money, but if Poles could get him as a rotational piece, he could provide some value. A couple other younger guys I would maybe take a chance on would be Dorrance Armstrong from the Cowboys or A.J. Epineza from the Buffalo Bills. Younger guys who might still have their best football in front of them. And now I did want to talk about defensive tackle a bit. Everyone's talking about the big fish. The free agent from the Miami Dolphins, he should get a contract close to what Chris Jones and Madubuike from the Ravens got. He's going to get paid. I expect close to $100 million over 5 years. A lot of people talk like they expect the Bears to be the team to do this, while it would instantly give us one of the best defensive lines in football, and I would be hyped. I just can't help but wonder if Poles is going to spend this much on the defensive line. We'll find out tomorrow. I expect Christian Wilkins to be one of the first guys signed, if not tomorrow, by Wednesday. A guy that's flying under everyone's radar, though, at the defensive tackle position, and I think could be a sneaky good fit, is Javon Kinlaw from the 49ers. The former first-round pick was drafted in the DeForest Buckner mold. He's 6'5", 319 pounds, and he was a first-round pick in 2020. He's just 26 years old, and he seems to fit what Flus looks for in a 3-tech. He also was buried on the depth chart in San Francisco, and he could end up being a value signing. He flashed his potential last year, getting 3.5 sacks and 31 pressures, mostly in a reserve role. But speaking of the San Francisco 49ers, another name might be entering the market. Arik Armstead. He was another first-round pick in 2015. He's the guy that Javon Kinlaw's been stuck behind on the depth chart. He is 6'7", 290 pounds. He has 33 and a half sacks with the 49ers and is pretty much a perfect fit for what Eberflus looks for in the 3-tech. He's the closest guy to a DeForest Buckner there is in the NFL. Arik Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, both from the 49ers, are guys to definitely keep an eye on. And then I was going to talk about the safety position as well, but that's over. Ryan Poles has signed Kevin Byard and also signed Tavarius Moore. I do not expect another move in free agency at the safety position, but it is possible he could draft a developmental guy. I had written this video up before we signed Kevin Byard, and one of the things I was going to talk about at the end here was how I think Poles was going to sign a safety and a running back for sure. The market is set up to be really buyer-friendly for both the running back position and the safety position. And Poles has already proven that by getting Byard on a 2-year, $15 million deal, a great value at the safety position, and I expect he might do the same at the running back position going forward. It makes sense that those aren't considered premium positions in the NFL. That's led to an oversaturated market at both running back and safety, where even if you sign a bigger name, you're probably going to pay a lot less than normal. At running back position, you could also wait it out and get a bargain deal later on. I didn't want to spend too much time on it, but I did want to give you guys some names to look out for as the free agent frenzy kicks off noon Monday. We're also officially on trade watch. Justin Fields trade rumors will not stop. Every single person in the media believes Fields is gone, but we should find out soon. Quarterback dominoes are starting to fall. Baker Mayfield is staying in Tampa Bay. And more late night breaking news, Russell Wilson intends to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we could find out where Kirk Cousins is going tomorrow. Stay tuned, guys. Please remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.